Okay guys, so today we are talking about the Dumbbell Spider Curl. How this differs from the Barbell Spider Curl. Obviously the barbell is connected and therefore there are less variables. However, with this, we have a great deal more control and therefore we're able to get into better positions when it comes to the Spider Curl. I actually think this is the better alternative. I think that if you're going to do this exercise, the dumbbell one is the way to go. So what do we need to know? Well, we're targeting our biceps. Our biceps go over two joints. We know that the bicep originates up in this position here and inserts down into our forearm. We know that a muscle will always pull to the origin and never to the insertion. We also know that with that factor, that the least stable bone will always move to the most stable bone. So in this particular case, the most stable bone will be our shoulder joint and our least stable bone will be our forearm. Now, why is that important? Well, a muscle that runs over two, and we know that the bicep runs over two joints. It goes over our elbow joint and up into our shoulder joint. With a muscle that goes over two joints, we need to make sure that one of the two is completely stable for the other one to get the most contraction possible, or the best contraction possible. So a great example is our hand, is that if our hand is bent over like so and we try to make a fist, we can hardly make a fist. But if we have our hand nice and straight and we try and make a fist, we can make a nice tight fist. So with this in mind, we also want to know the move or the range of movements that the bicep does. So not only does the bicep do elbow flexion, it also does shoulder flexion. So it helps assist in moving our shoulder slightly forward. Now that's important to us today because we're going to put ourselves in that position. Normally whenever we do a bicep curl, we're always pinning our arms to a bench or to our sides to allow for the most stability through this shoulder joint and to target elbow flexion. But we're actually going to bring in a little bit of shoulder flexion into this exercise. So let's get ourselves set up first. First point of call is that we want to set our feet nice and tight and we want to grip the bench with our legs. This will keep our lower body nice and stable while we are while we're doing the spider curl with the dumbbells. Next, what we want to make sure that we don't do is that we don't start down in this position here, because what we know about gravitational pull is that gravity works down, right? It does not work in a horizontal plane. So where momentum and swinging factor can come into it is when we start straight underneath ourselves. We're going to start to swing and we're going to lose tension from about here down to there, because there's no gravitational pull. The gravitational pull will start from the outside of the line of your body, which is why putting a foot in front of another for any other exercise is a fucking moron. Anyway, that's a different argument altogether. Right. So, with this in mind, like placing our elbows slightly forward and getting them outside the line of our body, we create shoulder flexion. So we can see that this position here, there's no shoulder flexion, pulling back and down, but if we move our elbows slightly forward, we're going to create shoulder flexion. That's why it's important to know our range of motions. So when we do this exercise, we want to start slightly forward. We also want to make sure that our line of pull is nice and straight, which is why the dumbbell is much better than the barbell in this particular case, is because we are subjected to where our chest goes on the bench. Obviously, my chest is here. We can create our line of pull a lot easier because the dumbbells are subjected to where our hands want to go, right? Versus a barbell that's one straight connective thing, and we've got to make sure our hands move along and our elbows are going all sorts of places. So, how we want to set this up: feet, shoulder blades back and down and slightly forward with our elbows. We're going to grab a hold of the dumbbells and keep them nice and forward. Now what we need to think about is that we're going to take these pinkies, put them to the outside of our shoulder. And the reason we do this is because we're going to get a great deal more activation through our bicep and more bang for our buck when we do this. Now again, this is why this is more superior, is that when we do come up and turn slightly, this is going to, our dumbbells are going to move with us in our natural range of motion, versus a barbell that is stiff and rigid and we can't actually generate that pinky turn. So again, dumbbells over barbell. Alright, so shoulder blades are back and down. We're going to create slight shoulder flexion. We're going to think about taking our pinkies out to the outsides of our shoulder while keeping a nice straight line of pull. Again, line of pull, straight arms. Hands are in line with our shoulders and we're going to come straight up and down. So again, so pinkies slightly driving out, back down, up. Now, when we do this exercise, I want you to think not so much about letting the weight go down. We've got to keep that tension through the bicep, but I want you to think about taking the weight out. So you're going to come out and back in. Out, away from your body, back in. Out, back in. This is actually quite a challenge. Beautiful. That there, team, is how you do a spider dumbbell curl.